Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
that's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Discover a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all, I'm JJ.
Hey, guys, it's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests to share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like, it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Welcome to Don't Blame Me. If you are watching on Patreon, you can see my wonderful butthole lips. Can you do butthole lips?
Nothing's getting through there.
Okay, I'm uncomfortable now.
What if buttholes went like this? They probably do when you're taking a shit.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about what you're eating, but then do that. Okay, sorry. IBS humor, everybody. So we give wonderful advice. We give the advice that we like to see in the world. Tough love, but, coming from a place of compassion, we obviously want to help our listeners. And if you let us know that you are sensitive and you are Pisces, we will go easy on you as best as we can. But we're the people you turn to for advice. It's anonymous. And that, the friends that aren't going to just tell you exactly what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So,
should we read a review?
Sure.
Yeah, we've actually got quite a few that came in.
Oh, porn.
No, it's good reviews.
I'm sorry. I just need you to know that someone has one where the title of the review is just called Macklemore.
Yes, that's the one I was going to read.
Okay, so Macklemore. And that's the title of this. This is not from Macklemore.
And when I read it, I Googled Macklemore. I was like, maybe it has a different meaning to it. I don't know.
I was like, did we talk about Macklemore?
No.
I mean, I talk about Macklemore a lot. I always reference Macklemore as being Mott's favorite musical artist, and he gets so mad at me because he hates Macklemore. And I just think it's so funny. Okay. Found this podcast in the middle of the pandemic. I'm obsessed. I love listening to the old episodes and the new. At one point, I'd listen daily as I walked the dog. It's so refreshing listening to people call out unethical behavior, even if it means they might lose fans. But they totally validate callers if they're in a hard spot and need advice and the caller is ethical. It's helped me build up the courage to point out unethical behaviors in my own life and reflect on my own thoughts and opinions and phrasing. Meghan and Melisa are funny, relatable, and even educational. Oh my gosh, no one's ever said that to me.
Melissa and Meghan.
So sorry, Melissa and Meghan. I'm a Leo, so naturally I just
I know, that's
switched
why I had
those
to
in
call
my
it
head.
out.
Melissa and Meghan are funny, relatable, and even educational. Love these ladies. Keep on doing what you're doing. I also love the other podcast they recently came out with, But Am I Wrong? It feels like the perfect add-on. And be sure to check out Melissa's other podcasts. They're also great. Truly a diamond. Ooh. P.S. I love seeing Meghan and Melissa's relationship blossom through the podcast, envious of their friendship. Oh, that is so sweet. People tell us that all the time.
They do.
In real life, every time we get our nails done. They're like, you guys are so cute. And I'm like, yeah, wouldn't you put us on a Target card?
Right.
And sell it?
I mean, Hallmark, we still have your number.
We do? We need our royalties. You stole not our name, but our likeness.
Likeness.
Did you want to read another one?
No, we'll save them for other episodes.
We really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Thank you all for leaving reviews. It's really great. It's wonderful. It's really nice. And it's also a great way for us to hear what you're thinking about the podcast and if you're enjoying it, because we have definitely taken a hiatus from letting people into the Facebook group, which we will strike back up soon. One person did get in because they messaged me
I know. And did you not see where I responded? You knew better than to message me.
Yeah, truly. No, it was so spot on. They messaged me and they were like, I've been trying to get into this fucking Facebook group for literally a year. And if you do not let me in, like you are responsible. This is like the start of my villain origin story. And I immediately searched them in the group and I added them and I responded, villain story, origin story avoided. Then included the screenshots in the group and everyone in the group is like, one of us, one of
and
us.
I said, I would have let you become a villain because I need a rival.
Exactly. She knew. And I was like, okay, all of this checks out. Like, you're fine. You can come. Like, you can come.
But that's not an invitation for other people to do it. You know, there's one outlier and that's it.
And also, like, she took it upon herself to do all of this without knowing that this would succeed. Like, she just, like, did it all on her own. So we will be going through and doing all of that stuff.
In the summer. I'm just kidding.
It's just a lot. It's just a lot, everyone. We are so. If you've been listening for a while, or if you haven't been listening for a while, to give a quick recap, we have a Facebook group where it's like a support group where people can come in and ask. We can talk about the episodes, talk about things in their life. Like it's like a community where people to get to know each other, but also to ask kind of more timely kind of advice where it's like going on a date. What should I wear for this? And blah, blah, blah. It's like a wonderful, amazing community, but it's a very open and vulnerable community. And so we have in the last 2 years really cracked down on making sure that we are like, it's not like a job interview, but like we're doing like due diligence and research to everybody applying because there are certain people in the group who have like made it clear that there's people in their lives who they aren't in contact with anymore and like abusive relationships. And so we need to make sure that all of the profiles are real and like tie back to accounts. And that's why we have you jump through all of those hoops and like link all of those profiles and stuff. Like it's because people share really vulnerable things in there. It's also for your own good because if you're like a not so secret racist, like you think I will tear you to shreds, you'll be ripped apart in that group 0.5 seconds or less. 0.5 people from all over the world. They're like, they are seconds you have, and they will hurt your feelings so bad. So, and they have jobs and we're not trying, and I don't want them to have to spend their time doing that. So that's why we do all that due diligence ahead of time. And we didn't used to do that, which is why this takes a lot longer for us to have people.
So, and we shut down the group for a while to clear things out. But now it just takes a lot of time. So we're tired.
We are perpetually. So we just cut out a whole section of us talking about Marvel DC. So if you want to head on over to Patreon, we're going to put it there because Melissa said that this episode is too long. With all that, we talked for 20 minutes. But if you ever wanted to hear our thoughts on movies
and TV,
check it out. And TV. So if you want to call in to this podcast, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. International listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. You have 3 minutes. That's your timer. You have 3 minutes from the time that the beep happens and or when you press record on your voice memo on your phone, however you're going to record it. So I don't want to say we encourage, and I'm not saying we're holding you at gunpoint. I'm saying what's the difference between that? Like wherever the middle ground of that is, that's what we're telling you to do, to write down what you're going to say, practice. Do you know what I mean?
It's just being respectful of everyone's time and your own time and respectful of yourself. And you want to make sure that you have all the information so that we can give you the best possible advice. So don't waste anybody's time.
Exactly. You're like you exactly said, you're also wasting your own time. The amount of people who are like, fucking should have just written it down first ahead of time. So write it down, time it, see how long you have, read it out loud, practice. And then when you call us, just read it right off. We love that. You can get a diamond if you do a wonderful, fantastic job. And make sure you let us know all of the important details. So ages, if it's about relationships, how long you've been together, and also include your pronouns so we can be accurate with those. And you have to be 18 or over, have your parents' permission. Anything else?
Nah. Let's get into the episode.
Woo, roll the tapes.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. Was not expecting to call in, but let's jump in. I'm 26, she, hers, my husband, 26, he, him. I've been trying to tidy up our apartment and help my husband with some of his stuff because that's always easier than dealing with my own. But he has this laundry basket of things that have moved with us, and we've been here long enough to give him plenty of time to deal with it, and I've tried to let him just go at his own pace with it. But anyway, in said basket was a bunch of random stuff, like figurines, whatever, doesn't belong in a laundry basket. One item, being the big stressor, is a plastic bag of mail containing some items dating from 2014, so well overdue for shredding. I told him an idea I had for organizing it to help him basically get some folders so that he can see what's in them and just dwindle down the pile so that maybe he can do 5 minutes a week to deal with his mail because he never opens it. He was a little hesitant at first, but said that he was fine with it. We got the folders. I started helping him organize, basically go through and shred, and he got more and more stressed over it, and I told him that I was just wanting to help him with it.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
And not judging or anything, just dwindling down the pile. I was going through and he got more and more edgy about some of the banking mail. And we don't have any shared accounts, but we're both pretty open about our expenses. But he was insistent that he could open his own mail. And I just said that I was looking for dates to put into the shred pile as it was old. At the time, I didn't think a lot about it, and we all know where this is going, but he happened to be out tonight. I got curious about why he was so antsy over some of the statements. Lo and behold, I peeked through. There's some charges for OnlyFans. I didn't know he was on there. Not mad about it, but feel a little deceived. I feel like maybe it could be innocent things he's paying for, right? I guess I'm just looking for some advice on how to address this with him. Thanks.
I need to know how much the bills were for. I need to know how much he was spending on OnlyFans.
Also, if he was trying to hide something, he did a terrible job.
Like, he was sketchy, antsy, edgy about the whole thing, and then finally was just like, dude, a plastic bag full of mail. Why is he getting paper statements mailed to him from OnlyFans? Sorry.
Yeah, especially when you need to shred them and then he just lets them sit in piles for a while. Because at first I wasn't sure where this was going. I was like, I literally have bags of things that I need to... I went through shredding about like a month ago, so I finished all my shredding. But like, I still have bags from when I first moved into my place that are still sitting in my kitchen where I need to drop off stuff at donations, but like also my car won't fit them. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but I was like, whatever, I've had those, whatever. I know that it can be annoying for other people, but I also live by myself. So
yeah.
Yes, as you said, why does he have paper statements?
Paperless statements, especially for OnlyFans if you're trying to hide it. Why?
It feels like he was trying to get caught.
Yeah.
Like, that's his fetish. It's like he buys stuff on OnlyFans, but he doesn't actually look at it. But he just like buys it and then wants to get caught. So he leaves these statements around and then he's like, oh no, she's gonna find it.
Also, like, is this like mail from OnlyFans being like, here is your receipt of purchase, or is it like his bank statements that show
bank statements?
Okay.
I don't think that OnlyFans would send paper copies. They know better than that.
I feel like you'd have to call and request. I'd be like, hey, OnlyFans, I would love a paper statement every month. So I was like, damn, that makes more sense. Yeah, if it's bank statements. Men sometimes, like, I feel for you because, like, I'm sorry, it must have been so frustrating for you to just like be like, I'm just trying to help, and like just seeing him get so edgy and antsy. Like, when we are big proponents of like, if you're gonna snoop, you know what you're looking for, and like I'm a pro snoop. I'm not pro snooping as like a routine thing to like keep someone in line or keep someone in check. Like, I think if you think the only time that you snoop is when you think you're gonna find something and you're okay with finding something, and it's not a regular occurrence. It's like, you know, you've got a mission and a goal there. Not keeping tabs. So you will hear no shame from us about snooping because you got exactly what you were looking for. And I think that maybe like we've gotten so many like questions like over the years about like OnlyFans, and I mean, we get it in the group and all of that stuff. I think that maybe with this OnlyFans is like staying and like having like virtual digital sex work, whether that's in like forms of porn or messaging conversations or one-on-one video chats. This is a kind of a mainstay in like which I think is a good thing, that it's not being hidden as much as like, you know, cam girls and like that kind of thing where it's like.
Yeah, like people regularly advertise their OnlyFans very publicly, which I think it's a great shift.
I think it is. And I think it's also great that people also publicly talking about consuming OnlyFans. And I think that in order to make sure that sex work in general is being regulated and safe and respected, the only way to do that is to talk about it. And so that I think that maybe now we all just need to adopt moving forward with dating, that early on in a relationship, you have an open conversation with your partner. Always should be having open conversations about porn, but also about OnlyFans. And like, I think that needs to be something that like you talk about ahead of time, because like, I just feel like this is happening. Like people are finding this stuff way too often for it to be like, this is pretty common and like pretty normal for this to happen. And so I think that, I mean, I would bring it up to him and I would just be like level with him and just be like, hey, so you were being kind of sketchy about this mail thing. And so I was curious. I apologize for going through your property, but I did see that this is an OnlyFans charge. And like, I was wondering, was that the reason why you were kind of like skittish about this? Like, and I'd like to unpack that and like hear why. And I have some questions. If you're like comfortable answering these kinds of questions, it would really like help me, because I think we're in a relationship and this is something that I didn't know about you. And I would like to have a conversation with you about this.
You go at it with no shame attached to it and not like pointing fingers, but finding out what exactly it is that he's watching, who he's watching, and why he felt like he needed to hide it from you.
Yeah, there's so much shame. Look at me being pro men, pro cis straight men. There's so much shame around men watching pornography. There's lots of shame around women watching pornography in general. But with men, it's this thing that like, it's this circle that in this cycle that men hide it because they're embarrassed that they watch it. And then women get upset that their partners are watching it because they're hiding it, because it feels like there's something to hide, but they're hiding it because they feel shame because they've been told there's something to hide. And then it's just this whole never ending cycle. And unless you and your partner have explicitly set a boundary ahead of time that you view OnlyFans as like cheating, I think you do come at it from a place of like, this is something I didn't know about you. Like, I would love to know. And you seemed a little uncomfortable with this. And like you said, like, I just want to know, I just like kind of want to understand it a bit more so we can have a conversation so we're on the same page. I don't want you to feel like shame about something.
I think it's great that you're supporting a small business.
I think, no, truly. I think it's great. Like, all about supporting a small business. But I think it's important, and we talked about this in the episode we recently talked about porn. If you don't talk to your partner about this, then you don't know what they're watching. And that is a really dangerous thing. And if we don't talk about porn, then the porn that people end up watching is like completely unethical and also just like really scary and really fucked up. The stuff that hides in the deep corners of the internet is the really violent, really offensive, really fucked up kind of shit. So you should know what your partner is into watching porn wise. And so you can know if you consent to being with someone who's watching that and you feel comfortable being with someone who is watching whatever porn that they are watching. But yeah, I mean, my advice would be a little bit different if you did share finances, because that is in general, you don't need my approval to watch porn or do anything, whatever you're going to do. Like, but when it's our own finances, like I need to be privy to the financial decisions that we're both making with our money.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't. I'm just picturing a plastic bag full of mail.
I could picture it.
That's what I'm saying. I have the amount of times I have moved with like, not necessarily laundry baskets, just full of random shit. And she's like, oh, figurines, mail. And I'm like, when I tell you every corner of my house has a box full of random shit, I relate.
Yeah. Now at my house, I have, because the mail gets like delivered inside it's a slot. Last night, the mailman, because it was raining all day, he came pretty late at night and it scared the shit out of me. It's like
it scares the shit out of me when I'm there like midday and I just hear it. And like, oh, that's just the mail slot.
Yeah, midday I'm expecting it, but it like falls into my house. So now I have a big box that it just drops into. And so once that gets full, that's when I go through it. Because I also have, which I don't know if I've told you about it, but as a general thing, you can have the mail people scan your mail and let you know what's coming. So I know when I actually need to look in it for something. And most of the time it's junk mail. So
that's so smart.
Yeah.
Also, did I tell you that like good fucking on me and well, mostly good on you for doing this. But when I was gone over winter and you started my car every once in a while, I didn't start my car for 2 fucking weeks and then it died. And I was talking to the AAA guy and I was like, and I had my friend do this when I was out of town. And he was like, see, smart, great. But apparently people's cars are dying all across the world during the pandemic because nobody is driving.
Yeah, I told you this, that my business mailbox, I go there. I really, during the pandemic, I started having most things sent to my house because I didn't feel like going there. But now I go so then my battery doesn't die. That's the only reason I go check it.
It's smart.
Yeah.
It's smart. I have to say.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
In my car at some point today for 45 minutes. And just with it running.
I don't know why when you sent that to me, I read it as 48 hours. I was like, you're going to let your car run for 2 days?
No. 45 minutes for 48. So I had to do it yesterday and then I have to do it again today.
Yeah. So I just read the part that was 48
hours.
I was like, your battery's
what about the ozone layer?
She's going to die though.
Yeah,
also, someone can easily come steal your car.
I know. No, I just sit in it. It's a little weird. I know. And you're not really. And he was like, "Yeah, you don't have to drive around because if it dies again." And I was like,
yeah.
"Okay."
Yeah, but so, I mean, I feel like you can easily sit in a car for 45 minutes.
Oh, I did yesterday. It's no problem. Doing it again, no problem today.
Yeah, I do that whenever I just leave the house and then come back and sit in the driveway for hours. Okay, next call.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. Hope you guys are doing well. I've been a long-time listener and never thought I'd be a caller. Meghan, you might remember me from answering one of your stories about thinking I enjoyed being love-bombed. I think I was just in denial. So my pronouns are she, her, and I'm 20. The guy in the story is also 20 and his pronouns are he, him. So we matched on Tinder on Halloween weekend and pretty much clicked from the beginning. We spoke every day until the end. We matched on like a Sunday and he wanted to meet up that Thursday. I originally said yes, but then changed my mind because I didn't know him that well. He was really understanding and he was like, don't even worry, this is the bare minimum. I have anxiety too, so I get it. Like that was the image I had of him in my head. Super understanding and kind. And the love bombing kind of started from the beginning. Like he would call me like his pretty girl, like pretty often. It was off-putting at first, but I kind of pushed it aside. At this point, he told me to be going to university 3 hours away in January. He canceled me once before, and also he was sick, so we still hadn't met, but like we FaceTimed too. The love bombing continued. He even told me he was willing to do long distance, and it felt really like the first guy I've genuinely liked. I've never been in a relationship before, and he knew that also. At some point, it all kind of felt really genuine. So he mentioned really wanting to see me, and he was almost begging to see me. So the next week, we decided, we agreed on like a Saturday after 4 p.m. We didn't make any solid plans, like a time or place, since I needed to study, but he seemed very excited. he'd be like, can't wait to kiss you. Like, please, like, jump in my arms when we see each other. So that Friday night after I finished my exam, I reached out and he was already drunk with friends because it was like 10 o'clock. And that Saturday morning, I woke up to message and he told me that he woke up in a different city 3 hours away, but he was coming back now, I think. He was with his friends. I asked him if we're still on at like around 3 p.m., but it's been 3 days and he has not opened my message. He updated his profile on Tinder and posted stories of pictures of him with his friends, presumably like from that trip. And now I'm just really upset. It's been like a month and a half this has been going on, and I went through so many theories to explain his behavior because he didn't really get anything out of this, and he was doing like the utmost. Like, he made a playlist for me from the beginning. He dedicated a song to me at some point after I told him like there was a song that reminded me of him. He added me on Facebook too, and like he doesn't use Facebook. Like, what was the point of doing that? So he really like intertwined himself into my life, and I just don't know how to heal from letting a person I never met manipulate me so bad. And I just feel bad for feeling sad because I let this happen. And I would just like some advice on how to heal from this and move on past this and just maybe not let this happen to me again. So thank you guys so much. Bye.
Can you give some background about what she said about love bombing?
I'm trying to like remember, but I think because there's a couple people who've said things like this before. I think it was just something along the lines of like, I think she had said that like she enjoys love bombing, and then I was like, she really likes that. And then I responded and I was like, I don't think you're familiar. I don't want to be an asshole, but I think what I'd said something along the lines of like, I don't think you wouldn't say this. I don't think if you really understood what love bombing is, because it's a cycle of abuse, and it's not the overt attention and all of that kind of stuff is only the first part of it. It's like a circle and it's a cycle, and then it becomes you take that away and then you weaponize it and you do all of that stuff. So I'm pretty sure that was maybe who this was, but there's a couple people who I've had conversation with this about. But I mean, I love with you. My first instinct, I'm like, is this man a catfish? Like, you said you FaceTimed though, so
that's when it changed for me. I was thinking the exact same thing until she said that they FaceTime, and I was like, did you actually see his face?
Yeah. I mean this in the absolute kindest way possible. And first and foremost, I want to say that like you're very clearly like blaming yourself for this and like assuming responsibility, and you don't need to assume responsibility. And so I want you and everybody who might relate to what I'm about to say to like understand that I'm not saying this in a this is your fault or your responsibility way. It's more along the lines of what sometimes can happen is people who do this tend to specifically go after people who don't have a lot of relationship experience because they can set the scene and set the table and kind of give an example of what it's going to be. And they can't really do that to people who've been in healthy relationships before because it's out of the ordinary. But when it's the only thing you've ever known, it's the same reason why, like, you know, grooming and with like adults with like, I mean, dating with large.
Do you love Disney? Then you are going to love our hit podcast, Disney Countdown. I'm Megan, the magical millennial.
And I'm the dapper Danielle.
On every episode of our fun and family-friendly show, we count down our top 10 lists of all things Disney. There is nothing we don't cover.
We are famous for rabbit holes, Disney-themed games, and fun facts you didn't know you needed, but you definitely need in your life. So if you're looking for a healthy dose of Disney magic, check out Disney Countdown wherever you get your podcasts.
Age gaps. People pick people for large age gap relationships who either don't have experience with relationships so they can, again, really call the shots and show what a relationship is like and have it be on their own terms, or people who haven't been in healthy relationships.
I just want to say that you put quotes for people that are just listening.
Sorry. Yeah. So that is something that when we talk about like avoiding these situations, I think love bombing, I don't know anybody who hasn't been in an instance or a situation where someone hasn't done this. And like, it's sadly like incredibly, incredibly common. And what he gets out of it, because you're like, it feels like he doesn't like, what's he doing? It's attention. It's attention and knowing somebody is into him. It feels like power and it feels like control. And it feels like it can even be as like innocent as just like boredom and feeling like filling your day with like compliments and flirting and all of that, which there's nothing wrong with enjoying like flirting with someone, but it just has to be when you're on the same page and it's leading someone on or doing all of that. The playlisting, maybe here's the thing. How about we just tell you how much of a scumbag he is, and hopefully that will make you not be so sad to start. He didn't make this playlist for you.
He made that playlist for everyone and sent it to you.
And he picks a different song for different girl. And,
it's a move.
Mm-hmm, and you weren't the only one that he was talking to. And he might also have a girlfriend.
Or it's all a game for him. He might not have a girlfriend. He just likes stringing people along because he likes, like you said, the attention, but also the control that he has.
Yeah. And knowing that he can make people fall for him in a month and have it be so quick and that they'll drop things to see him and all of that. So whoever you FaceTimed and had conversations with, he was designed for you by him to make you be into him. And that person doesn't exist. And that's something that's really scary about love bombing. And when you're in a relationship with someone and then suddenly that goes away and it's someone you don't recognize, it's because they molded their personality and everything to be what they think is the most desirable. And most of the time you can pinpoint exactly what movies they've watched and what male celebrities that they think are hot, whatever they think that is. And it's you are living a budget version of The Notebook. And you're just saying these things that sound like they've been written by Nicholas Sparks, but you clearly don't believe them. And they're clearly not for me specifically. And yeah, you're young, you're only 20. And I say that just in the sense that having gone through this and recognized that this is love bombing, I think is you're years ahead of me at that age. I was going through this shit and I had no idea that I didn't put any fault on anyone besides myself for any of this and didn't recognize that this was a cycle that I was a part of that was not for me. But my biggest advice for this is I say get out there, meet people, whether that's if you want to do dating apps, if you want to do something else, but making sure that you're actually meeting and talking to these people, and that if you don't know them so well, just know that they're statistically, if someone is completely in love with you and obsessed with you and doing all of this stuff right off the bat immediately, unless you've been childhood friends growing up or something, very, very, very rarely is that not just the start of love bombing, because he doesn't know you well enough and people don't know you well enough for that. And I would never put myself out there to get hurt and just be incredibly vulnerable with someone I just met and come on so strong. And the people who are comfortable doing that, it's usually because they have a habit of doing that and they recover from it pretty quickly,
Yeah. It's hard when you haven't been in a relationship before and you think it's, and I'm guessing since you are someone that said that you liked love bombing before, you have this perception of what romance should be just because of maybe the media you've consumed, or most likely the media you've consumed, television, books, maybe podcasts. And so you have to drop what this perception is and look more to what actually they're saying and not the persona that they're putting out there. So, you live, you learn, you've lived, you've learned. He doesn't respect you. He's not going to respect you. It was all a game for him and it hurts to hear, but you've been through it now. And now you're able to spot that in future people that you may date.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't have a lot of relationship experience and you're kind of trying to look out for this stuff, biggest thing I can say is the difference between relationships and friendships. Relationships and friendships start with the base of friendship. And the difference between a romantic partner and someone who's interested in you is if there's a sexual aspect of what you want in a relationship and what they want, then it's friendship plus sexual attraction and sex. And it doesn't have to be intimacy sex, but intimacy in some physical way or an emotional intimacy aspect of it. But there's the friendship aspect. It always remains there. It will always be there. And so if someone is immediately when they're into you, all of this kind of stuff, and there's no friendship there is none of that relationship that you have with your friends where you feel close, you can talk to each other, you get to know, there's all of this other stuff. If it feels so different than friendships, and not just because it's the fluttery feeling in your stomach, there's some sexual attraction there, there's the will they kiss me kind of thing, that is kind of just a telltale sign that they are just regurgitating, like you said, the media that they've consumed and playing a role of what it means to be romantic, when I think the base of all romance is friendship. And because that is an incredibly like powerful relationship and experience to have with someone. And then the only real difference is like intimacy in whatever form of intimacy you're looking for in a romantic relationship. But it's tough. And if it seems too good to be true, it either is or you need therapy. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean in general. Like if you think that someone is like too good to be true, it's either that they are or you have some self-worth issues to work on in therapy, which I understand. I've been on both of those. So I wholeheartedly understand and have experienced this. And I think it's really amazing that it's only been a little while since this has happened and you've had this realization. Like it took me years to realize my ex-boyfriend showing up, wasn't my boyfriend at the time. This guy I literally met like a couple times and was like into showing up at my birthday party in Vegas and like knocking on the door and like figuring out where I was. Took me years to realize that was actually creepy and that wasn't cool. And my friends we were all on the same page. Like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, that's so hot. And like years later, we were all like, wow, whoa, fuck. Like we had such a warped sense of this. So kudos to you for doing this reflection at this point.
Yeah. All right. Time for a break.
Woo! We will be back after these quick messages. Should I just start whistling?
What Disney character does that? That's how they talk. I don't remember.
I don't know either.
It's the gopher from Winnie the Pooh.
I didn't even know there was a gopher in Winnie the Pooh. I liked Piglet and Eeyore and Tigger, obviously, but Tigger felt like a personal attack. I'm going to live with you.
So, like, everyone except for Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin. Oh, Kanga, too. And Roo.
Roo was cute. Winnie the Pooh was fine. I just never... This is such a stupid
I don't
reason.
understand why Winnie the Pooh is the star.
Me neither. First of all, no star power. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, Eeyore has more star power. Like, I love a underdog story. But I also hated honey as a kid. I think honey, I still don't like the taste of it. And so, like, Winnie the Pooh, and I just couldn't relate on that level.
Gotcha.
And I was definitely a pants but no shirt kind of girly. Not a shirt, no pants.
I'll do it sometimes in the house when I'll wear, because if I'm on a call or something, you can't tell I don't have pants on. So, but I have pants on right now.
Okay. I'll do that if I'm wearing a giant t-shirt and period underwear, because otherwise I'd be marking my territory. Okay. Should we get into the rest of the calls?
Yeah. Yes, we shall.
So we just started playing this call. I had Melissa pause. So, okay. In this call, it sounds like she says that she is 20 years old and her husband is 34 and they've been together for 8 years total, married for 6, which I immediately made Melissa pause and go, I'm sorry, she was 12? Like freaking out. And there's actually a note next to this that the original call, she called him once before, and then this is the one that she wrote down. So this one we're using, it's better. But that she clearly says 27. So the quality is better in the other one. She's 27. She's not 20, but we needed to do this before because I know no one would be able to listen to the call. No, it would just be like, I'm sorry, a 26-year-old and a 12-year-old. God, my heart, I just fully was like, that scared the shit out of me.
Okay.
Woo.
Play.
Okay.
Hi, Megan, Melissa. I called earlier, but I think my call was a little jumbled, so I wanted to write it down. I'm a 20-year-old female with she, her pronouns, and my husband is a 34-year-old male with he, him pronouns. We've been together 6 years total and married for 4. My issue with him lately is intimacy. We haven't had sex in about 2 months now, and I feel disconnected from him. We do have a 2-year-old who keeps us busy, and we both have incredibly busy jobs. I work in a hospital, and I can't go into much detail about his job, but it's usually pretty tiring for him. We've fallen into a place where we hardly kiss or hug, and sex seems to be unimportant to him. I brought this up to him by saying we feel like roommates, and I feel dissatisfied, but he'll say things like, I don't think it's a problem, I'm so attracted to you, I'm just tired. Lately, though, he'll be playing video games all night, and I'll go to bed alone. So I'm always wondering, how can he play video games when he's so tired, and he doesn't want to spend time with me? I do have a history of sexual trauma, and he's mentioned feeling nervous initiating sex because of this when we had first started dating. But I'm no longer bothered by this, and I'm not affected by it at all. I've worked through this through therapy for about, 2 years now, and I'm feeling really confident and comfortable with my sexual health, and I've mentioned this to him as well. And it really honestly hasn't been an issue for about 5 years total now. And so I don't think that that's playing a role into it. I just thought it would be something that I should mention. But like I said, it's not a barrier for me, and it never really was with him anyway, since I had been working through it before. I have also bought a vibrator that I've used, but he has not joined in, but I thought it could help. But it seems to not have helped at all. So I guess what I'm asking is if you guys have any advice on how to feel more connected without putting any pressure on him to have sex if he's not interested. I really don't want him to feel pressured. And, I've been in that position before with previous partners, and I really don't want him to feel that way either. I don't know if it's a matter of him just feeling tired at the end of the day, or if there's something bigger going on. There's no signs of depression for him, no anxiety. He's not taking any medications. I am a social worker, so this is things that I have already kind of thought about, and there's nothing indicating that there would be something bigger going on. So I'm wondering, maybe it's me? I don't know. Any help would be appreciated, and you can be as hard or tough as you want. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so do you have any thoughts right off the bat?
If I'm just going to go off him playing video games, he probably sees, and I'm not getting into the rest of the call, but as far as like him spending time with you, he probably sees video games as something mindless that he does to unwind at the end of the day, whereas opposed to having sex and being intimate is actual physical work that you have to do. And so I wouldn't directly take that as he can do that, but he can't be intimate with me. I don't think those two correlate, but I understand your frustration. I'm sure he's tired, but there could be a bigger issue here that he's not even aware of about his libido and just, getting, 34 is not, or how was he? 32, 34? 34 isn't old by any mean, but there could be, tiredness does affect your libido in a huge, huge way. This may be TMI, but even the other day I woke up way too early and I was like, okay, I can't go back to sleep. Let me just masturbate so I can go back to sleep. And I tried and I couldn't even get off because I was so tired. So even
I so understand.
Me trying to force myself to go back to sleep by doing this, and it didn't work because I was so fucking tired. So I think maybe making a time, looking at your schedules and making a time where it's just you two, where you can do something where it's not like a day that you both have to work and spending maybe the whole day together, getting reacquainted with each other on a physical and emotional level, and then trying to have sex would be different than just like at the end of the day when you're both exhausted and he's so exhausted that he needs to decompress by playing video games all day. Then that would be a better, different approach to going about being intimate with him.
I so agree. I think we have this stereotype that men are just ready to go whenever and down to have sex, and women need to have more emotional intimacy that leads to physical intimacy, but that's not true. It is completely varies person to person. Whatever's in your pants is completely irrelevant to that. It might be something that for you're horny and you want to get off, and so it's just kind of a end of the day rough and tumble, check this off the list, this will be great. But for him, it's not that he doesn't want to have sex. It's just that's not even on his mind because he's not feeling, there is no intimacy that's leading up to it. It's not a switch that he can immediately turn on. So I agree. I think having if you can try and set a date night every week where the expectation is not to end it with sex, but it's the expectation of having more everyday intimacy together because, you've got busy schedules. You have a 2-year-old, you both work, you're really tired, especially when you're tired, to have a day like that where it's not your partner, so you don't necessarily have to be on, but he can spend the rest of the time, he can decompress with the video games when he wants to decompress. And then if he doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't really view quality time with you as decompressing, which he wants, that's quality time. He doesn't want to have mindless kind of that, he doesn't view those things as similar activities, which I think is actually a really good thing. that it's not either or, and it's not like you can have a harmonious relationship with both of those things. Like you can have that. And if you need to have the energy and the bandwidth to be intimate and have these dates and to regain emotional and physical intimacy, doesn't have to be an every night thing. It's just like a once a week thing of being like, let's do this. And like, let's go, like, let's have, like, see if you can get a sitter, or if you can't, where then making it be on like a weekend, like planned a month ahead of time where you can get a sitter for something like that, and doing that, or something that it is not right before one of you has to go to work like really early the next morning, like setting yourself up for success and just being like, you know, having fun, getting like cute for each other, like wearing a cute outfit that makes you feel super sexy, like going to like get takeout from a new restaurant, or like where, I don't know what the situation of new cases is like for you, but like going out somewhere, doing something. And then knowing that like when you kind of start redating each other, intimacy there, you have more opportunities to be like in the moment, and like, as opposed to the default of always being, you're always attracted to your partner, but always being in the mood to have sex with your partner and like be intimate in that sense. I would also say, if you can, I would turn off I think you said you're a social worker. I would turn off that lens and like turn on a friendship and partner lens. Because when you said that like he's not showing any indicators of being anxious or depressed, have you asked him? Like, have you had a conversation with him about how he's feeling, or are you observing him?
That's a good point.
Because like people mask that all the time. And I also think, surprisingly, as much as sometimes it's the people we're closest to that like have the hardest time picking up on small changes or things that have been different. And especially if you're seeing the same like you're seeing them every day, and he might be dealing with some stuff, but is like heavily masking that in front of you. So I would ask him about that. And maybe part of the reason why he might not have felt comfortable about that is because like you do come at it from like a social work kind of professional lens. So I think if you can come at it as like a friendship kind of thing, but he's saying that he doesn't really have any problem with intimacy. Like, I don't think that you need to bring up, like, are you anxious or depressed in that same conversation? I just think that it's like, we haven't done in a while, like a mental health check-in. Like, I've been feeling like this is something that's been bringing me a lot of like anxiety this week, or like, I felt like, I was going, and I don't know what your mental health thing. So like, this would just be like an example, but it's like, oh, I'm really happy the sun is coming back out. Like, I feel like I've like felt some like lifting on my depression. Like, I don't know, like, again, this is just completely hypothetical. I had a meeting with my psychiatrist. It was really helpful. Like, I'm really liking the medication I'm on, blah, blah, blah. So like, if you have an open conversation about mental health regularly, and like that is something that you talk about, it makes it more comfortable for a partner to talk about when their mental health isn't great, because it doesn't feel like a catastrophic anomaly. And like, if it's something that's already in your everyday kind of discussions, and not when it just comes to like work related stuff, but just as like a check-in with your friends kind of thing. But I think that it's also very valid if he's not anxious, not depressed, he can just have a lower libido with that. But I think that I would ask if he's comfortable, like, hey, are you comfortable if I reach for your hand to hold your hand? Or are you comfortable if I initiate that? Like, or is this something that like you're not really in the mood to be physically intimate in any capacity, whatever level that is? And are you comfortable with me like touching you, or are you not comfortable with me like reaching over to hold your hand or like kiss you on the cheek or something like that? Because you've said that he's not doing that. And I think that like you mentioned that he had been a little more apprehensive early on to like come on to you because of some trauma sort of stuff. But is it that he just doesn't want to be touched at all? Or is it that he doesn't have the emotion, like the energy to like instigate things, and doesn't really have a desire to follow through? Mm-hmm. Because I think if you're not even holding hands or kissing throughout the day, like I think that's what you focus on, because you're not going to have sex. If you throughout the day aren't feeling like there's any sort of intimacy, and he's not feeling it throughout the day, like there's any sort of intimacy, like it's highly unlikely that like you're just going to like randomly have sex at the end of the night. Like intimacy is something that is built throughout the day. And I would focus on those little things, but I would also clear it with him. Like there are some times where like, I do not like to be touched. I mean, in general, I'm not a very touchy person, like at all, but like I have my friends always used to, and I think about this now and I'm like, damn, all of the signs were there. I mean, I knew I had ADHD, but like there's a lot of other signs there. that like, I don't like to be, there's sometimes where I'm just like, I don't want to be touched. I don't want to be hugged. Like I need my physical space. And I like that with Mott's too. Like if someone's too close to me and there's no rhyme or reason behind it, I just get overstimulated and I'm like, please don't touch me. And that sometimes can last a little bit longer for me. And it's not personal at all. It's sometimes just overstimulated. And if that's him, and if he deals with like just overstimulation, then maybe it's like, is the house really messy? Is like there like construction across the street that's really loud and noisy? Like, are these other things that are like, I can't even tell you. It's like you have all these, at least for me, I have all these like plates like spinning when these like things that like noises and just all of this shit everywhere. And then you hand me another plate and I'm like, I'm going to throw the plates, all of them. I'm going to drop them all at once. And I'm going to lose, and then I'm going to shut down. But throughout that process, you cope with it. Yeah. You got to figure out why that's happening there. I don't know. It goes through phases too. Sometimes you're just not that in the mood to have sex and shouldn't feel obligated to, which doesn't sound like you feel like he should be obligated to either. But if it is like an ongoing thing, then therapy to talk about it if you don't feel like you're getting anywhere with conversations with just you two.
Yeah. All right. Next call.
Yay.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I'm 20 years old. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a junior in college. I am a virgin and have never been in a relationship. Growing up, I never talked or learned about sex with my family or friends and primarily learned everything I know from the internet or this podcast. I recently was catching up with some of my high school friends. They've all started exploring sex, whether that be through hookups or relationships. So people were mainly talking about topics such as how far they've gone with their partners, how to perform oral sex, how big their partner's penises were, etc. Since I have not done anything sexually, I felt super uncomfortable with the whole conversation. I also felt like I couldn't contribute anything and feel like I'm being left behind. In general, I get super awkward and freeze up whenever I have to talk about sex and masturbation, and struggle to talk about it openly, even with my friends. I've been currently questioning whether or not I'm on the asexuality spectrum, because although I masturbate and can get sexually aroused from watching porn or reading erotic literature, I do not think that I've ever felt sexually attracted to someone, but I'm unsure since I've not been in a sexual setting with anyone before. I have been reading some Reddit threads on asexuality to learn more about it, but again, still unsure. My mindset right now is that once I actually have sex, I will figure it out. But in college, I have not met anybody, nor have I been actively seeking out romantic or sexual partners, which makes me feel like I'm falling even more behind. I'm scared of dating apps since I feel like everyone around me has had sex and only wants to have sex and hook up. I just want some advice on how do I feel more comfortable talking about sex. How do I not feel like I'm falling behind on sexual milestones? And how do I feel more comfortable putting myself out there and dating? Thank you so much.
This is so common.
Mm-hmm. We've had kind of a similar call to this before, but yeah, it's very common. I think the first thing is reframing your mind, because don't think of sex as having milestones, which I think that we've all become accustomed to talking about. Like basis is something, it's the first thing we hear about when we're younger and people started talking about kissing and touching and things, but there aren't any milestones. And when you say that you haven't been sexually active, you are masturbating. So you are sexually active. You don't have to be with someone else to be sexually active. And then like with talking about and comparing with your friends, it happens. It's going to happen. People are going to talk about what's going on in their lives. And, you know, it's fine if they talk about it and you just want to listen, or you don't even have to be there to listen to the conversations. It's just whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I will say that I think that this podcast really gives off the idea for me personally that I've always been comfortable talking about sex. That is not true at all. Like, I'm older than you are. And at 20, I was comfortable like making like dirty penis jokes. Like, I definitely was not comfortable. I don't even know if I had I think I probably masturbated for the first time when I was 20, maybe even later. Like, I was not comfortable talking about like sex, intimacy, unless it was kind of
the joke. Yeah.
Like, not a nuanced conversation. Like, oh my God, we got to this base or whatever. Like a very like surface level kind of thing. But like, I did not masturbate. I had never had an orgasm at 20. Like, that was something that a lot of the time, I think what we see as like young women talking about sex is, penis sizes and like, oh, you went down on me, like, oh my God, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it's like not really about like, it's not like female pleasure centered. At least it wasn't for me at that age. And so I think that like you've been on Reddit, you masturbate, you watch porn, you have all these things that like I would say if I had met you when I was 20, I would consider you leaps and bounds ahead of me sexually, even though I was having sex. Like there is such a there's so many aspects of that, and you have one aspect that a lot of people don't have yet. And that is something that like honor that, like honor the fact that like you know how to get yourself off, which so many people don't know how to do. And like you are having the more like nuanced conversations with yourself and understanding like your own preferences and sexuality, all of this that like you might have looked at me at 20 and said, I'm behind. And I would have looked at you at 20 and said, I'm behind.
Yeah, I'd say like for me, I masturbated before I had sex. And I feel like that when we, like you're saying, when you're around your friends at that age, you're talking more of in a like salacious way. And when we got down to it, I was actually having more pleasure. And then by the time I actually had sex, I understood my body as opposed to what to do to someone else. And so I was able to, prioritize my pleasure. And I feel like my first time was leaps and bounds better than what I've heard from other people.
Yep. I mean, I don't know if there's any truth to it, but like in my own personal experience, like my friends who had more like attention from in this case, like heterosexual, my friends who had more attention from guys earlier on and had sex earlier and did everything else earlier, had orgasms later than my friends who masturbated first, because people are starting to get into sex and starting to exploring. And like some people do like masturbate like very young, which is also incredibly normal. But a lot of the time people go to like, reading fanfic, reading smut, reading like some like sexy things and like touching themselves or masturbating or whatever, because they aren't having any they're having sexual feelings, but they're not having that play out in their like relationships every day. And they're seeing their peers do all of that. And so I know so many more people who like are like Melissa in that sense. And then people who were like me. And like, it took years for us to like actually have an orgasm, because there's not a ton of sex education that encompasses everything. Like we have, like you said, the salacious media talking about like Sex in the City, like gossiping about this. And then you have like the anatomy kind of conversations and about like clitoris, like clitoral pleasure and all these other things that aren't they don't really go together. And so it feels like some people get handed one book and other people get handed the other book, and we're both jealous of what the other one has. But I would say that you said that like you'll figure out your own, like if you fall on the ACE spectrum once you have sex, if that is something that's comforting to you and that's something that like you aren't putting pressure on yourself for. But I would urge you to not feel like a label should feel comfy and helpful and useful to you and only you. And I think that labels in general, relying on instances of like to be that moment of clarity versus just going with however you feel in the moment, and knowing that like you don't have to put pressure on yourself to like have your first sexual encounter not only happen, be enjoyable, but then also tell you what you need to know about what you feel like you want to know about yourself sexuality wise. If it clarifies something for you, that's wonderful. But I hope you don't put pressure on that moment to be anything other than like seeing what it's like for you. And I think that like you don't have to feel comfortable talking about sex. And I think that's okay. You don't ever have to feel comfortable talking about sex if you don't want to. I think that you're doing the work behind the scenes, discussing sex and watching porn and doing all of this stuff that it just might not be something you feel comfortable participating in the conversation of, because you don't relate to the current conversations your friends are having about sex. But if your friends are having conversations about masturbating and like their favorite, like something sexual things that you can relate to, if you want to participate in those conversations, that's also great. But you also don't have to participate in those if you don't want to. And you listen to this podcast, which means like you're comfortable hearing about us talk about sex. So I have friends who like I never talk about sex with. Like that's just like so not their vibe. And then I have friends I do. And as long as your friends aren't making you feel othered or pressuring you to that, just know that like I've talked about my sex life to friends who don't ever share theirs with me. And like we're both comfortable. They're comfortable asking me about it. I don't feel like now your turn, please share. Yeah. Like I also think, I don't want to say that like our podcast is setting an unrealistic standard, but like I talk about sex more with you, Melissa, than anybody else in my life.
Yeah.
Maybe Mott's, but that's because we're having sex.
And I was going to say, and then most of the time when we're not on the mic, it's because we talk about it a lot because we get prompted to, but I don't think we actually have talked about it like not on the microphone before.
No. And we also don't really specifically talk about, this is also a very young thing. Like we don't really, in general, like once your friends start being with serious relationships, like you don't really talk about sex with your
I don't want
friends.
to hear about it.
No. And like we talk about sex on this podcast, but like there are sometimes I'll get on here and say things that are like personal stories. But most of the time we're talking about sex as like an abstract and as like a, not
or
as like
things
a,
that happened in the past and not currently happening, because
I don't want to hear about my married friends fucking their husbands.
Yes. No. No.
There's like a window. So like when my best friend and I, we both started dating like our fiancés now, I'm like, we probably talked about sex with each of them for maybe a week, 2 weeks, and then never again. Because it's like, well, now that's who we're marrying, and that's weird. Like, ooh. So, yeah, I don't think you're falling behind. I think when it comes to dating, I'm sure it feels like it's the elephant in the room and that like everybody has like has had sex besides you. But as long as you are clear with like what you want and like what your expectations are for your sexual relationships, like if you want to have sex with someone, if you want to have sex with someone when you're in a relationship, if you don't want to be in a relationship when you have sex with someone, like as long as you're aware of those with yourself before you start dating someone, you can clearly communicate those things and the shitty people will like filter themselves out, you know?
Yeah. She also wants to date, but she's scared because it seems like everybody just wants to have sex and hook up.
You have to know what you want, so then you can communicate it to other people.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about the dating apps, and we've been over this before, but in case you haven't heard, but like if you're using dating apps, go about it with intentions. If you want to just date casually, then put that in. On dating apps, the people that want to hook up are very open about that's all they want. If you want to date, then be open with like, I'm actually dating.
Yeah. Again, and I will say, I've said this in every single one, dating casually has an expiration date. 99% of the time, if you see someone says that they're looking to casually date, they're not looking to casually date someone and then be in a relationship with them and then settle down with them. They are not looking for that. It is the in-between of saying that like, I don't necessarily want to have a one night stand, but like I could have a couple week stand, or I could like, would like to put you on my roster. When I want to settle down and have a girlfriend, I'm going to start a new one. I'm going to start a new roster. So I just see so many people see men put as like casually dating, and they put that in there thinking that that's what they want because it leads to seriously dating. But just like we want you all to have intentions when you date and join dating apps, the people you're matching with also have intentions. And I know wonderful, great guys who are total catches who put when they're ready for a relationship that they put interested in a relationship. And like it happens, they're there. You just have to be confident in the decisions that you're making. And you're making those choices for future you, and future you will really thank you.
Yep. All right. Time for Don't Blame Them.
Woo! So this is where a listener will call in with their own advice pertaining to a call that we had on a previous episode. So maybe they have their own personal experience. Maybe they're similar to me and like to hear the sound of their own voice. They have something that we neglected to say. So...
Hi, I'm a 23-year-old female and I use she, her pronouns. I'm calling in for a Don't Blame Them for the most recent episode about the girl who never dated anyone in college. I also never had a boyfriend or really went on dates when I graduated college last year. And after many pep talks and moving to a new city, my friends convinced me to get on dating apps. I agree with Meghan and Melisa that you have to know what you want, but also I wanted to echo how low pressure this can be. Some of my friends immediately started seeing people in person, but I wasn't comfortable with that, so for the first couple months, I just messaged people. Only recently have I actually started going on dates with people. I live in a red state, so it took going through many profiles to find someone with my same values, and I got the expand your preferences prompt many times. This can be frustrating and start to turn me off to dating apps, but I would run into the same situation in person. It's just an expanded pool, like Megan said.
Your limited experience is not a red flag to others, and if your partner is a good person, they shouldn't care about your dating past, whether you dated hundreds of people or 0. So I just want to tell the caller that you aren't alone, and there is no pressure to rush into dating. Everyone goes at their own pace. Thank you so much, and I love the podcast. Bye.
So that is from season 9, episode 13.
What a perfect, don't blame them for that last call. Well, thank you for that. And we hope you all enjoyed the episode. If you did, leave us a review on the podcast app. We really appreciate it. And if you're still listening this far, comment. Let's pick an emoji. You could do the heart and the bomb, like a love bomb emoji or anything. Or if you want to share with us
your new favorite emoji. They just let out a whole bunch. And
I need to download.
Forever to scroll through all of them. And I was just like, what is this?
I already hate how many. There's so
many.
I just wish the search function was better.
Yes. And I also wish that we would get a proper eye rolling one. We have side eye, but we need like an actual, not like the one that's looking up. It needs to be like in the circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree. I think there's a lot of them. And I just think that white brunette girls desperately need their own emoji. And so we can throw that one in there too.
Yeah.
Be absolutely wonderful.
Wait, are you saying that you're brunette?
No.
That's what it sounded like. You said we need our own.
No. But they need a spray tan emoji. I would love that. If they have all the same hand ones, but they have like the badly done wrist orange spray tan. That's what I want. I want the fine spray tan for the rest of the hand. And then like you have like the residue on the wrist. So then when people just stop, because I don't know them personally, but there's people on TikTok who like switch their emojis based on if they have a spray tan or not. And I'm just like, okay, let's be realistic. Your wrists, nah. Your wrists have some orange. They look like Cheeto dust. Let's be realistic. Let's give you one that you feel seen.
What I think is so funny is that me, who was a professional spray tan artist back in 2009-ish, I had such a technique that wouldn't give you all that extra. And I'm just like, it's been over 10 years at this point. Why hasn't it advanced? Because my technique, you didn't have those splotchy lines and stuff. And so I just don't understand how people are still getting those.
They're doing it themselves.
I know, but like, I feel like there should be an at-home version of it, because all it was like a sponge where I was like contouring it into the skin. Like, why isn't there an at-home version of that?
There probably is. It's just the effort that people aren't putting into
it. So you'd rather look like splotchy than to take 1 minute to contour it into your skin. Okay.
They're desperate. Okay. They're like, Saint Tropez is working overtime. Okay. Well, if you want to call in for the podcast, we said the phone number 310-694-0976. International listeners, send us an email, meghanpodcast@gmail.com. Stay tuned don't stay tuned. Make sure if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, subscribe. And then subscribe to our other podcast, But Am I Wrong? Comes out on Thursdays. It's a good time. Anything else?
Nah.
Okay. We will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me. Executive produced by Melissa DeMonts and Diamond Imprint Productions. Edited by Coco Lawrence. Post-production sound by Chris Henry. Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson. Music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the co-hosts of the Christmas. Let me try that again. Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the hosts of Christmas Countdown Show.
We're so thrilled to be bringing the merriment to you all this holiday season.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be massively merry, gigantically jolly, fantastically festive, as some people might say, Eric. We are all about alliterations, and we are all about Christmas spirit. On Christmas Countdown, we love to count down our top 10 favorite things related to the holiday season. That could be food, movies, music, everything that we all love about this massively merry good time. So wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you click that subscribe button. Eric, are you ready?
I am ready, and we hope that you are too. Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's go. It should be like, let's go, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone. So we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural Then and Now.